My name is Sheila Briggs, and I work for the Department of Public Instruction, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about play today. The department's responsibility is making sure that we select standards that all of our schools use to articulate what we want students to know and be able to do. So in general, we don't really get involved with how students are taught in the field. That's really up to the local teachers and school districts. But when you look at the standards for the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards, we say it right in the forefront. We've got our guiding principles listed, and one of them is that children learn best through play. But I find that it often gets lost in translation. So the department says children learn best through play, and we have these standards that we'd like you to meet, and we want students to be prepared to do well on the third grade assessment. But what people hear is we want students to do well in the third grade assessment, and so we don't have time to let students play. When that's really the exact opposite of what we're going for. What we really want is for you to be teaching kids the way that we know that they learn best. And with young kids, we know that that is through play.
In play, children use incredibly complex cognitive maneuvers like focusing and shifting attention, like negotiating power and control, like setting rules and changing rules and revising rules in real time, articulating and communicating. All of these functions activate the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is the seat of critical thinking and the place in which the executive functions of the brain are developing. Play is the most powerful setup for learning in young children, bar none. Research has shown very clearly that while playing, children can solve more complex problems than they can when given instructions top down. And recent research has also shown that children are able to articulate incredibly complex grammatical constructions while during imaginary free play. Things like the future tense, how about we try, such and such, are incredibly complicated and help children to gain in articulation skills. In a recent study, English language learners that were involved in imaginative free play on a daily basis showed an increase in vocabulary significantly above children that were not involved in this kind of imaginative free play. Children who play often are happier, they're more engaged and focused in school, they are more articulate and more collaborative, they show better self-regulation scores and better academic achievement.
For those of you that aren't familiar with early childhood education and what it means to have kids play, I'm going to tell you right now that it doesn't mean that the teacher doesn't do anything and that they just sit there while kids show up and do whatever they want each day. In fact, setting up an early childhood environment so that students learn through play is probably more complex than having them sit in desks and doing very teacher-directed activities. You have to set up the materials in the environment, and you have to make sure that there are opportunities for students to be able to dig in and learn the things that are in the standards. So for example, you might have a grocery store set up in the play area, and students are learning math because they're calculating the prices, they're learning how to cooperate by working with one another, they're developing their language skills as they talk to the cashier. And the teacher's role is really important because they need to be watching and observing and writing down the things that students are doing well and the things that they're still struggling. And that's what assessment looks like in early childhood. So if you're hearing that young children shouldn't be playing or that we don't have time to have young children playing, I can tell you that you're not hearing it from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction.